Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Whenever you're reading this, guys, this is Coach Mike from the FLA Movement, where we help everybody with lifestyle and nutrition needs and wants and education. I'm going to go over a BioLane article about how does muscle protein synthesis of a vegan meal compare to that of an omnivorous meal. I'll go over these terms in a little bit. Overview, real quick, just so I get to the point, and then we'll go into details. What did they test? The researchers examined the differences in muscle protein synthesis between a vegan and an omnivorous meal in older adults. Omnivorous meal just means, in this case, they just use beef, but it's basically animal protein. What did they find? Muscle protein synthesis was greater for following the beef meal in older adults, which is important for our older adults, just because as we get older, we don't process protein as much. We lose muscle, we lose bone, and so getting a higher protein consumption helps slow that process down. Okay, so let's dig into kind of what some of these terms mean first. Protein ingestion is a pivotal regulator of muscle protein synthesis. Muscle protein synthesis is the process of building and repairing muscles. With the anabolic response, this is the building of muscle, to protein intake being linked to the postprandial surge in circulating essential amino acids. It's a weird sentence, but basically they're talking about the surge of this anabolic response. Once you start eating protein, your protein gets ingested, then you get this after meal surge of amino acids circulating in your body. So that's kind of what that means. They just said it very fancy. Essential amino acids are amino acids that the body cannot create by itself, and it is therefore important that one's diet provides enough of them in order to support muscle growth and recovery, which I will touch base on later. But simply having a variety of these essential amino acids is key. There are 9 essential amino acids. I'm going to list them off, but I'm going to put a link in the comments under this post where you can go read an article about protein and amino acids, and they'll talk about all that stuff in detail in there. But the 9 amino acids off the top are just here listed: histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. So did I say all those right? I don't know. These are not synthesized by humans and therefore dietarily essential or indispensable nutrients. These are called the essential amino acids because we actually have to consume them via food or consumption in order to get them in our bodies. Now there's other 11 amino acids that our body naturally creates that we just call those are normal amino acids, but they're non-essential amino acids. So when it comes to protein sources, their amino acid composition, digestive kinetics, and absorption dynamics collectively dictate the anabolic efficacy of a given protein source. So saying, this is them jumping ahead of what they found, but they like a diverse intake and consumption of the amino acids, especially the essential or the essential ones, the 9 ones I just listed. This comes in when you'll hear the term complete versus incomplete protein sources. Basically, when they say complete, generally they're saying that this gives you more of a variety of these non-essential amino acids. When it says it's incomplete, that means it's missing some essential amino acids. So the perceived inferiority of plant-derived proteins is usually attributed to their lower digestibility and the incomplete amino acid profiles. You can only get some amino acids, essential ones, from plant-based products, and with the meat or omnivorous type, you get more of them. I'm not saying you get all of them, but you get more of the essential amino acids from meat and beef and all that stuff. So that's kind of what they're saying right there. So in this study, it compared 2 complete meals, one being vegan, so only plant-based products, and one being omnivorous. In this case, they used beef only. We can't say the same thing because it's not in the study, but when we just say beef, we're talking about an animal product for now. I'm just going to group all the animal products, but this one is specific to beef. So this brand new study by Pincackers looked at exactly this right here. So this really hasn't been done before. They've compared other types of protein synthesis with different types of meat and stuff, but not solely beef and solely vegan. Quick background about the study participants: 17 healthy older adults. By older, they mean 65 to 85. There's 8 male and 8 female volunteered for the study. The design is important. Byron will always say this in his things, in his lessons, that the research followed a randomized counterbalance crossover design. Those are a lot of scientific university type of research words, but basically in this case, I'll just explain what that means in this case here. Each participant consumed both types of meals, so you have the same person doing consuming just the omnivorous meals for a couple days, and then they also did the plant-based meals for a couple days on separate occasions, just so they can compare their effects on that same person. Because if you had it just comparing different people, that wouldn't be very accurate. Participants were randomly assigned to the order in which they received the meals, and neither the participants nor the researchers conducting experiments were aware of the meal type during the study. That makes it less biased. That's kind of why they put all that jumble in there. Experimental protocol. So how do they go about this? Each participant underwent 2 test days where they consumed either the omnivorous meat or the vegan plant meal. So they went 2 omnivorous days, and then they went 2 only, and then 2 plant days only. And how they kind of tested this out, the results, muscle biopsies were taken at specific time points to assess muscle protein synthesis rates. And throughout the postprandial period, blood and breast samples were collected to monitor amino acid concentrations and metabolism. Postprandial period just means after they were done with the study or after they'd done with their last meal. So the meal compositions, just so you have a number on that. The meat meal consists of lean ground beef, potatoes, and string beans. They matched for calories with the plant meal through the addition of applesauce and herb butter. The plant meal comprised various plant-based protein sources such as quinoa, soybeans, chickpeas, and broad beans. Lots of beans. With added soy sauce for flavor, obviously. Both meals were designed to provide approximately 0.45 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And that was the meal composition. So what did they find? Both meals were well tolerated, and while there was no notable differences in feelings of fullness or gastrointestinal discomfort, participants generally favored the taste and texture of the meat meal. Shocker. The same, so they both had the same plasma glucose levels, both increased for both plant and meat, about the same. Insulin concentrations also rose after the meat and plant meals, but the peak insulin level being higher after the meat meal. That's just a fact on that one. Doesn't say anything about whether it's good or bad. The meat meal triggered a significantly greater increase in plasma leucine, and the overall availability of plasma leucine during the entire 6-hour post-meal period was about 139% higher for the meat meal compared to the plant meal. So leucine is one of those essential amino acids that I labeled before, and one of the most important ones for muscle protein synthesis. You'll find this once you look at your protein that you have in powder form, or you can also look at nutrition facts of certain meats. Look at those and see the ingredients in it, or nutrition facts about it. Leucine should definitely be in your protein powder. So definitely look at that. You'll see something like isoleucine, leucine. Sometimes you see valine in there. And so yeah, check that out in your protein that you have at home that you use, and let me know if if it has it or if it doesn't have it. Okay. Overall, the meat meal resulted in greater availability of specific amino acids, including some other essential ones such as alanine, isoleucine, or it could be alanine, yeah, one or the other. Isoleucine, lysine, methionine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. Additionally, during the early postprandial period, so this is just after the meal, about from anywhere to 180 minutes following the meal, protein synthesis rates were 47% higher for the meat meal compared to the plant. Go meat! I don't think that's surprising, but this kind of just helps the previous research studies improve them a bit more. So what do the findings mean for you, for me, for everybody? The results in older people. So the results of the study suggest that in older adults, a meal with beef, in this case, as a protein source, might have a more favorable impact on muscle protein synthesis compared to a solely plant-based meal. The meat meal led to a more substantial increase in key amino acids, particularly leucine, in the bloodstream, contributing to enhanced muscle protein synthesis rates. So remember, leucine, isoleucine are big factors when it comes to enhancing muscle protein synthesis. A noteworthy aspect of the findings was the influence of age on the anabolic response to different meals. So this is in regards to older versus younger. Older adults, a demographic often associated with reduced muscle anabolic sensitivity to protein intake, exhibit a more pronounced increase in muscle protein synthesis rates after consuming the beef-containing meal. So this implies that the type of protein in a meal can be instrumental in overcoming anabolic resistance associated with aging. So the study highlights the increasing significance of protein source quality as individuals advance in age. So that's great for older adults wanting to know which is going to help basically keep on their muscle and stop them from aging or just losing that muscle as we get older. That is very important, and I'll definitely keep my grandma on her protein beef. However, it is important to note that this is just one study in a particular demographic, which is older adults, 65 to I think it was like 80 or 85, in a particular demographic, and should be therefore interpreted with caution. Contrastingly, data on younger adults does indeed demonstrate that there are no major differences between omnivores and vegans when it comes to protein synthesis, saying that in younger age adults, I'm not sure what the age range is when they did these studies, but they basically said that protein synthesis in younger adults was about the same when they had the same amount of protein amount in just omnivorous meal, beef, and when just vegan products, plant products. But that being that said, the meat tastes better, texture is better, and it's a lot harder to get the same amount of protein in plant-based products than it is to just eat it via animal meat, protein, and stuff like that. Animal meat, yeah, animal meat. It is important to note that participants in the study were consuming protein at a resting state, meaning that they did not engage in resistance training during the duration of the study. So they're basically sedentary. Is kind of what they're saying. They didn't do anything active. And that means there's no direct muscle growth measurements were taken. Resistance training is a primary driver of muscle growth, and although one's protein intake can play a role in further enhancing the adaptations derived by resistance training, it must be noted that the act of resistance training alone will have a significant impact on muscle adaptations, regardless of whether protein intake or quality is optimized. So they're saying basically do resistance training if you want to increase your muscle mass, increase that muscle protein synthesis, especially when you combine that with adequate amount of protein. In this case, beef was like the more valued protein source, animal protein versus the vegan stuff. But the vegan still did help, but it just wasn't as high as the beef. Also, remember the term amino acid profile, what that means. So we talk about a protein, it has its own amino acid profile, and it'll either have the majority of our essential amino acids. We'll call that more of a complete profile of amino acids for that protein. Or they'll say it's an incomplete protein, or the amino acid profile has a low rating, which means that there's not all the essential amino acids in that protein, so we call it plant produce, as much as there would be in another one such as beef. So that's all it means when they say the amino acid profile of a certain protein. That's what that means. So just kind of keep that in mind when you do look at the ingredients, the nutrition facts on labels, or even if you look it up on Google of a certain beef, you can look at all the different types of animal meat and then all the plant proteins that they have out there, and look at the nutrition facts, see what amino acids they list off inside those labels. So that's something to do, some homework, and that's it for this study. If you have any questions on this, put in the comments below. I'll put a link to an article about protein and amino acids, and it'll talk in numbers more than what I would want to talk about here. So let me know, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.